We also extend our warm regards to Professor Payal Mago, Director, School of Open Learning, University of Delhi, whose guidance always strengthens our academic endeavors. Though she could not be with us today, we acknowledge her presence for her continued encouragement. It is now my honor to invite Professor Ajay Jaiswal, Sir, Principal, School of Open Learning, University of Delhi, to deliver the welcome address. Professor Ajay Jaiswal, sir, is a visionary academic leader whose unwavering support for innovation, quality education, and learner-centric initiatives has been instrumental in shaping transformative programs at SOL, including today's workshop. His guidance continues to inspire both faculty and students alike. Over to you, sir.
Professor Prajesh Roy, Dr. Harchitwan Kaur Lamba, Dr. Sumit, Dr. Abhilasha, and other dear colleagues and dear students, a very good afternoon to all of you. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all in this online workshop titled Mastering the Business Model Canvas, Crafting Winning Strategies for Startup and Enterprises. This workshop is jointly organized by IIC, that is Institutions Innovation Council, and Center for Internal Quality Assurance, SICA, under the edges of School of Open Learning, Delhi University. This is an effort to bridge the gap between the academic theory and the real world. And as you all know that today we are having the competitive world in which the strategy thinking and innovations are not just valuable, they are essential part of our life. And the business model canvas is globally recognized framework that enables entrepreneurs, professionals, students to visualize, refine, and validate their ideas effectively. Whether you are an aspiring entrepreneur or you are future business leaders, the insight that will be shared today will be providing you the practical tools to structure value-driven strategies. I extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Harchitwan Kaur Lamba for graciously accepting our invitation for sharing her expertise with us. Her rich experience across academia, industry will add immense value to this session. And I am confident that participants will gain a lot from his expertise. To all participants, thank you for being here. I encourage you to engage actively, ask questions, make the most of this opportunity to deepen your understanding of business model innovation. Wishing you all a productive and enriching session ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now it's time for the most awaited part of the workshop. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our distinguished expert speaker for today's workshop on Mastering the Business Model Canvas, Crafting Winning Strategies for Startups and Enterprises. Dr. Harchitwan Kaur Lamba is a strategy expert with a PhD from the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. With extensive experience in business strategy, entrepreneurial orientation, and firm performance, she has worked across a range of industries from multiple startups to large enterprises like Google. Currently, she is an entrepreneur in residence at Moxie Beauty, where she leads strategic initiatives, digital marketing, and brand growth. Dr. Lamba is also a published researcher and has consulted for major organizations, including government and corporate entities. We are delighted to have her with us today to share her deep insights and expertise on how to effectively use the business model canvas to craft successful strategies for startups and enterprises. Dr. Lamba, thank you so much for joining us. The screen is all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Abhilasha, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Quickly, let's get started. So today's session will be about mastering the business model canvas. It's about crafting winning strategies for startups and enterprises. Before we begin, I would like to introduce you all to who I am. My name is Dr. Harchitwan Lamba or Chitwan Lamba. as Dr. Abhilasha introduced me, I have a PhD in strategy from IIT Delhi. My past experiences include Google, Delhi University, Moxie Beauty. I've consulted for government organizations, for private companies. I have written and published case studies. I've worked with quite a few small businesses, startups that are growing, have grown in the past, and that brings me here to you today. In today's session, our objective would be to understand the business model canvas, how to apply it effectively, and exploring real-world examples and best practices to actually execute it. A lot of business-related sessions I've attended, a lot of books I've read, videos I've watched, in theory, everything makes perfect sense. We all get the concepts, we all know what the 4 Ps are, we understand how frameworks and models work. But when it comes to actually applying it to the real world, that's where the link completely breaks between what's in the theory and what's happening in practicality. So in today's session, what the aim is that we link this bridge. We talk about the theory and we talk about actual practice. And hopefully everyone here today leaves learning something about strategizing for an actual business. The practices, the theory that we talk about are actually interestingly applicable from a small to a large, all sizes of businesses. Of course, the concept changes as you change the type of business, but it's applicable whether you want to start a small business or a very large one. So let me ask you a question. I understand this is an online model and you won't be able to answer it loudly, but take a second, think about what comes to your mind when I ask you, what's the Sorry. When I ask you what's a successful business, think about the kind of businesses that come to your mind. When I think about what's a very successful business for the last few years, then a name that has stayed in my mind for a very long time is Google. Extremely successful, right? You all would agree, I'm sure. From a share value perspective, from how an organization should run, from employees, from products, brand, everything in place. But Google's initial business model was full of its fair share of failures. They struggled to generate revenue using their search algorithm. Their first product was Google Search, and they tried very hard to figure out, how do we make this work? How do we sell it? What is our actual product? But they could not figure it out. Then finally in 2003, they launched Google AdWords. Now it's actually called Google Ads. They rebranded it. Why? Because again, the product completely changed. Advertisements stopped being word ads to video and image ads. So Google AdWords became Google Ads. So then in 2003, they launched AdWords. This is the change in the business model that completely changed the game for them. It pivoted them from not having any revenue to becoming the market leader of search. And not only did that push them forward in terms of revenue for their search ads, but it also made them the #1 search engine and kept them there for, well, over 2 decades now. Now, in the words of Alexander Osterwalder, who is the creator of the business model canvas, a lengthy business plan often increases the risk of failure. So then how do you start a business? Everyone tells you, right, that before starting a business, what you need is a business plan. About 10 years ago, I'm not sure if they're still happening, a lot of colleges would have a business plan competition. You know, you come up with your business plan and you're judged based on the kind of detail you bring to it. But Alexander Osterwalder says that a lengthy business plan is going to increase the risk of failure. So how do you plan for your business? If you don't plan, you will be in a problem. If you plan too much, that will also create a problem. So what is the right mix? So the right mix is the business model canvas. And what is a business model canvas? It's essentially just a tool. It's a strategic management tool. It's a visual tool. It's a framework that describes, analyzes, and designs a business model. So it's something that, you see in one go, and it puts the entire landscape of your business in front of you. So if you're trying to make somebody understand what your business is, this is very helpful. Now, what is the key benefit of this? It's simple, it's flexible, and it's an actionable framework. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, this is what it looks like. If you look at the screen, there are 9 building blocks. First, we have key partners. Key partners are people who the business is going to ally with, people who are essentially going to make sure that the business goes ahead, people that you have to collaborate with and work with throughout the scope of your business activities. Then what are the key activities? What all will the business have to undertake primarily in order to succeed? Then right under it come key resources. Now, in order to carry forward these key activities, what are the key resources that the business will require? Every business requires different kinds of resources, so it's very important to know before you start what your key resources are. Then comes the most important according to me, and that's why it's placed in the absolute center. Value proposition. What are you bringing? What is your business going to bring? What value does it add for its customers? What is your actual proposition? Is it a problem you're solving? Is it a product you're providing? Is it a service? What is it? Defining this is the most important, most significant, the first thing that a business should probably do. Then who are your customers? And how customer segments is who are your customers? You have to define them. And then customer relationships are how do you connect with them? How do you engage with your customers? What kind of a relationship are you looking to build with them? And how will you do that? And then finally, channels. How do you reach your customers? Is there a mix of channels? Are you using primarily one channel? Are you taking a multi-channel approach to this? Very important in the beginning to define it. And then at the bottom come 2 things. What is the cost structure and what is the revenue stream? The cost structure we have to remember does not mean what is the amount in rupees that we're spending, right? Cost structure means do most of your costs come from manpower? Do most of your costs come from capital expenses? What kind of recurring expenses do you have? How will the cost structure change as the business grows? What kind of costs can we control? What kind of are the costs that we don't need to worry about? And then parallel to cost structure, of course, if there are costs, there will also be revenue streams. Do we have one major revenue stream? Do we have multiple revenue streams? What is the split between the streams? Where all do we see money coming in from? These 9 building blocks essentially form the business model canvas. This should probably be building this business model canvas should be one of the things that a business does right at the beginning. Deciding who we are partnering with, who we're dealing with, who we're selling to, how we're selling to them, what are the costs that will incur, what are the revenue streams that will come up for us. If we can define all of this, then we have a clear idea of what our business should look like when we get started. It's very important to keep in mind that this could change, right? Because this is, if you look at it, essentially internal. The key activities are internal, your resources are internal, your value proposition is internal, your channels are external, but the decision is internal. Your cost structure, again, internal. Most of these things are internal, but the external environment changes and it changes very fast. And when it changes, you have to adapt to it. Prior to 2020, a lot of channels were primarily for a lot of businesses physical, and that changed to an online channel. Revenue streams were for a lot of businesses cash, and that would have changed to the mix would have changed favoring or skewed towards an online payment. So a business has to be very careful that the business model canvas needs to change and needs to adapt as the external environment changes. And just because you've made it once in the beginning and it worked beautifully for you, it does not mean that you don't have to keep looking at it again and again. That's a very common mistake that businesses make, that they feel like in the beginning they have decided what the building blocks should be. They're good to go and they'll always be successful. They'll always be in business. If we look at businesses like, say, very classic example, Nokia, or in the later day, BlackBerry, they knew exactly what value proposition they were bringing. And while the value proposition did not change, the demand for the customer and their customer segment completely changed. So it's very important to be flexible, adapt, and pivot as per what's happening in the environment. Okay, so I'm assuming that the 9 building blocks are clear to everyone, and we can move forward. So now this brings us to our next question. The BMC, the business model canvas, why does it matter? So firstly, if you really look at it, it helps structure businesses and their ideas very clearly. When you put things down to paper, you know, this is who I'm selling to, this is what I'm selling, this is what I'm trying to target, this is who my customer is. And you can identify the gaps and opportunities clearly. That, okay, if there is a gap in the market that nobody is making, say, if we talk about, say, the launch of the iPhone, that nobody is making touchscreen phones, this is the gap that I'm trying to fill. Everybody wants music in their pockets and everybody wants a phone also. So I combine the two. Then it facilitates better communication among teams and investors. Most people, when they start a business, their goal is to make it big. In order to make it big, what you need is a team to help you grow it and a table of investors willing to invest in it for you to scale your business. So now if you have a business model canvas and your thoughts are very clear and put to paper, what it does, it allows your team and your investors to know exactly what you're doing. And this facilitates better communication. And then going forward, as things change, looking at the BMC helps you iterate things. It helps you make decisions. It helps you pivot. Okay, you know what? Till now, we were selling face creams to 18 to 32-year-old men. We want to pivot. We feel like a younger segment is evolving. We would also like to sell it to them. So now our target market has gone from 18 to 32 to also 14 to 18. Now, do we do that under the same brand name? Do we do that under a different brand name? All of these decisions, easy to take up once you know who your customer is and the BMC comes in there. Now, we talked about in the beginning, a practical approach to the business model canvas. For this practical approach, we should have a step-by-step guide, right? How to make decisions for the BMC. How do we actually go around to building it? So step 1, what do we start with? We start with customer segments. Very important to define who do we serve. What kind of customer segmentation could we do? We could define customers based on age. Are we serving, say, if you're a toy company, what kind of age category? Are we serving preschool children? Are we serving children who are in the kindergarten to class 5 category? And if you're not segmenting by age, are we segmenting our products by gender? Currently, our products that don't even require a gender demographic segmentation are being sold like that, and surprisingly, they're very successful. For example, a face wash for men will sell separately and for women separately, even though essentially skin is skin. You don't require 2 different ones, but companies tend to do that. Then you could even segment in a different way. Am I trying to sell a solution for a quick meal in the kitchen for working professionals who don't have time to prepare food? Then what is the age category there? How do I, define my customer segment there? So dividing your customer into things like details is very important. Like for instance, exact age group, gender, income level, the cities you imagine they live in, or towns or villages, wherever they may be for you. What kind of lives do they lead? What kind of interests do they have? This entire profile helps you actually reach your target customer in a very defined manner. Does that mean that someone else will not use those products or services? Absolutely not. That's not what it means. Other people will also use it. But what it actually helps with is that when you go forward, once you've defined the BMC and you start actually making the product, selling it, packaging it, designing it, in that entire process, when you have a clear set of who your customer is, it helps you make decisions for all these things very, very clearly. And what actually comes out is a very clear value proposition, a very clear product. If I know that, for instance, I'm going to sell shampoo to a Gen Z customer, there's a very high likelihood that my shampoo will also be purchased by a millennial customer. But my entire decision making is based on my customer segment. So it helps me design the product, the colors, the branding, the language I use, the channels in which I try to sell to, the kind of ads I run. All of this is based on my customer segment. Then, like we discussed, the most important thing, identifying the value proposition. What is a value proposition? It's the problem you're looking to solve. Let's take an example. What kind of problem is ChatGPT looking to solve? We all know, for us, the kind of decisions we have to make in a day that we rely on ChatGPT for. So ChatGPT is very clear that, it's going to provide you with an answer to any question you may ask. That's its value proposition. It allows you to simplify your life. It allows there to be this one-stop shop where every single question you have may be answered. Then determining the channel. How will customers access your solution? Very important question to answer. Not having clarity on the channel can lead to a huge failure in your business. We can take an example to see one of these failures. You've heard of, everybody knows Myntra, right? It's India's #1 website for fashion, for buying clothes. Now, Myntra initially Myntra merged with Jabong. If you remember, Jabong was a website that was at that time one of the one or two number website in India for online shopping. And what Jabong realized once was that people buy, 90% of their customers approximately buy on their mobile app. So they decided that if 90% of our customers are buying on our mobile app, then why should we even have a website? Let's shut the website. We will save so much money. Because what happens is when you design anything, you design for two places. The website design is completely different and the mobile app design is completely different. So if they only design for the mobile application, they save a lot of money. So they shut the website. And they thought that those 10% customers will probably land up on the mobile app, right? Wrong. What they didn't realize was that the mobile application actually was helping in finishing the final sale, but people spent a lot of time searching for the actual product and looking at the details and reading reviews, and the time they were spending was divided between the mobile and the website. So now what was happening was that on the phone screen, they were not going through the products, they were just checking out. And now Jabong had lost customers that they didn't realize that they were going to lose, because even though only 10% was checking out on the phone, a large number of the customers was actually spending time on the website. So they had to undo this mistake and bring their website back. So that's one of the reasons why channel definition is extremely important. Then you outline your customer relationship. How will you engage them? Extremely important to define this, right? Think about an Indian brand that you like. an Indian brand that you think about when I say strong customer relationship, for me, that brand is Zomato. The experience that a Zomato customer executive gives on chat or call is, to me, unparalleled. I have not seen that kind of a level of customer experience being driven by any other Indian brand that I can think of. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in the Q&A, one of you can correct me. Zomato customer executives go above and beyond in their communication in one-on-one challenges that a customer may face. Zomato also, when it engages with the wider public in social media or even in physical hoardings on the roads, their storytelling, their advertising, the kind of copy they write, everything is extremely engaging. And it's not just the younger customer; they are engaging with people across the spectrum. Their ads are entertaining, they are interesting for young, old, all kinds of audiences. So it's very important to define what kind of customer relationship we're looking to build. Then next, defining revenue streams. So important, right? Number one thing for a business, if you think about it, how will you make money? Where will the money come from? Let's take an example. Since we're on Zomato, we'll continue with that for now. Zomato makes its money from, number one, that a customer would know or think of is what kind of the kind of restaurants and the kind of all the delivery whenever something is sold online, all the food, the money that they make from them, right? There's a cut that Zomato gets from the restaurants. But Zomato actually has multiple other revenue streams. They have collection pages on the app that help you decide where to order from, where to go for a meal. That helps Zomato gets a cut from that, because essentially what that is an advertisement. It's a placement on the app that allows more customers for the restaurants, and then in return they pay Zomato. Whenever a new brand launches itself on Zomato for delivery, they would be expected to pay a certain amount or guarantee a certain amount of ad revenue in exchange for that placement. Otherwise, they believe that they will not be able to sell their products. Then Zomato also does a lot of partnerships and engagements, leveraging its own brand value that allows it to gain more revenue. So there are of course primary revenue streams, but it's also the secondary and tertiary revenue streams that sometimes surprise you by, by creating such large volumes of income. Then what are the key resources? What do you need to operate? For a manufacturing company, it would be capital, would be heavy machinery, it would be the people who are skilled in operating that. For a consumer brand, like for instance, Pulse Candy, right? Why was Pulse Candy successful? Because it was leveraging a very well-established distribution channel by the company that manufactured it, that allowed it to be placed in every single corner shop, pawn shop across the country. So for every different, the key resources would be completely different. So what are your key resources? Important to identify because that would mean that, that's something that you need to ensure stays in place. If your key resources are your very, very talented employees, then you make sure that they stay happy and then that helps your business succeed. If your key resource is a very, very strong cash flow, then you make sure that's well managed. Then what are the key activities? What must you do to succeed? Again, key activities are different for different people. if we take the example of, say, it's not a business, but if we had to take an example for, say, a polio vaccine, right? In order for the polio vaccine to be successful in the country, what did the government have to do? They had to make sure that people knew it was safe. They used a brand ambassador. They had a face to the brand that people trusted and knew, and that made sure that the vaccine was actually successful. Then next is recognizing key partnerships. Who are the people that can help you? Who are these people? Who should you partner with? Is that something that changes over time? What kind of a relationship do you need to have with these key partnerships? For instance, a key partnership for Zomato would be all the restaurants and all the delivery personnel that they have hired. These are the people that help drive the business, right? And finally, calculating cost structure. What are your major costs? Where's the money going? How much, roughly, of course, like where is it going? Is it going to one place? Is it going to many places? Is it recurring? Is it one time? And that helps you keep a tab on your overall profitability. And this is how you step by step build your business model canvas. Does this make sense so far? Can you give me a reaction if you're all with me? Okay, thank you. Now we'll take an example, right? We'll take a couple of examples and we'll try to build a business model canvas together. I would like you to spend a moment thinking about Uber as a company. And for Uber, what should all these 9 building blocks look like? Try to answer that. If you have a piece of paper, I would like you to write down. It's a useful exercise because sometimes these things seem very obvious. If I answer this for you, you would agree with me that, of course, yes, this should be the customer segment. But actually, when you try to write down on paper, it's not the most straightforward thing always. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes. Or let's make it 3. It's 3:04. At 3:07, we will discuss the business model canvas for Uber. I would like you to take these 2.5 minutes to actually write these following points down. Okay, so let's start. I hope that you've actually written things down, and then you can check if the points we have on screen and the points you've written match. Of course, there's no one specific answer. There's a long list of value propositions and customer relationships, etc., that would be applicable for this case, but overall, we can discuss it. So the kind of customer segment that Uber, tends to look at, it's pretty wide. It's the riders, drivers, and businesses. We know riders and drivers are things that we're familiar with. What businesses is something that, Uber business handles. So as a customer or as a rider, you may not fully be familiar with that. The kind of customer segment that Uber business tries to target is, for instance, if you're a multinational company and you have your employees traveling within India and abroad, and there they have to take cabs regularly. What simplifies this process of them paying and then you reimbursing them is if they're charged to their Uber business account. Then no matter where in the world they are, that car ride, that cab ride can easily be charged to the company account, and reimbursing the employee is simplified. And instead of having different car rentals and different cab companies that they deal with in different parts of the world, since Uber's present almost everywhere, the business only partners with one company. And when you partner with one over so many, what you can essentially also negotiate is a better rate for your business and save money. So the businesses that they partner with are a fairly large and important part of their business. What is the value proposition that Uber brings in, right? It solves the problem of waiting for a cab. It's on demand. It solves the problem of always having cash on you or having a change, having a wallet. If you have nothing, you can still find it, take a cab, reach somewhere, wherever you have to go safely. So what does this whole process become? Extremely efficient, right? So what it's trying to provide you with is an on-demand, cashless, very, very efficient transport system. What is the channel? How does it reach you? There's nobody that I can think of that's booking an Uber ride on their website. So the channel is a mobile application. Well, of course, finding Uber for the first time, you wouldn't have downloaded the app straight away. There were different ways that they targeted you as a customer. But the primary method of interaction is on a mobile app. Now, how do they engage with their customer? There's a feedback, right? How do you give that feedback? It is based on a rating on a scale of 1 to 5. And you can personalize it by adding more feedback that is layered on top of that, which comes down as a drop-down option. You select one of the many options that are given to you. Now, what is the revenue stream? Of course, there is a fee for the ride, right? If you pay 500 rupees for a taxi ride, a part of it is split between the platform, which is Uber, and what do you call the other part that goes to the actual cab driver. So the ride fee is one. How else does Uber earn? There is surge fee, the very annoying and uncomfortable fee that you have to pay when there's a lot of congestion on their network, when a lot of people are looking for a ride. And then there's one more. It's called partnerships. Uber tends to partner with other brands, other companies, and that allows them to also earn from those partnerships. So the revenue streams are the fees for the ride, surge pricing, and partnerships. Then we come to key resources. What are the resources? What resources do you think that Uber has. One is the platform, of course. It's a very important resource without which they will not be able to do any form of business. Then, very important, the network of drivers they have. Because if they did not have drivers conveniently available across the city that you're in, you would not be able to actually move from one place to another, and the entire system fails. So you have a very key resource, the application and the driver network. What else? For a company that works across the world with so many partners, such a large customer base, and such a large number of partner riders, and so many physical points at which the customer is looking for a driver, a very, very key resource is the data, the algorithm that they function with. This algorithm allows them to be lean, it allows them to be efficient, it allows them to calculate what kind of price should exist, how many drivers do I need where at what point, what can I change in the system to make it even more useful for my customers, how do I make more money, how do I grow my business. So the data, the numbers, the algorithm is extremely, extremely important. I don't know if all of you have seen this feature while using this app. What it does sometimes when you're in an area where there's not a lot of drivers available, or there are drivers available, but they're not picking up the ride. What Uber has now introduced is they've noticed that, okay, you might be a customer who is very desperate and needs to get a ride. And the fee is now already decided, right? How much you will pay to the driver or to Uber. That's already decided. That it says that to go from the point that you're at, point A, to point B, the amount, what your charge is 350 rupees. But no driver is picking up your ride. Now you are in a position where it is extremely important. You have an exam and you have to reach. So for you now, this ride is very valuable. But the driver doesn't know that. So if you were face to face, you would have said, भैया 50-60 रुपए और ले लो, मुझे ले चलो, मेरा बहुत जरूरी है जाना, and then the driver would have agreed. So now what a feature that they've introduced is that if they see that there are actually like 1 or 2 drivers nearby, but they haven't picked up the ride, and you still have been on the app for a fairly long amount of time, which means you are in a position of desperation, what they say is an option, add this tip or increase the value of the ride for the driver to increase the likelihood of them agreeing to take your ride. So now you have to reach your exam center. So you say, okay, I will give you 100 rupees more. Please now, maybe hopefully you'll agree. And for me, in my experience, the 1 or 2 times I've tried it, it works. You immediately get a ride that allows you to, reach where you want immediately. I'm not saying that this is the most fair or a best practice, but I'm saying that understanding your customer and understanding your resources helps you to actually provide innovative solutions for your customers that could work for you. So the key doses we discussed were the app, the driver network, and the data algorithm. Now, what are the key activities? The key activities that they do are, of course, number 1, ride matching, right? Matching the right ride to the right driver. There's also ride sharing, which is an extension of ride matching, matching multiple people to the same ride and allowing them to reach their place effectively. Then another activity that they do is effectively managing their payment gateways, managing their payments from the rider to the company, from the company to all the drivers, because payments come in different forms. They come in cash, UPI, cards. You have to deal with banks, you have to deal with credit card companies. Every single payment form has a different timeline of the money actually moving, and every single driver has to be paid, I think, twice a week or once a week is the way Uber drivers are, the payments are cleared. Obviously, some of them end up collecting some cash also. So creating, a record, maintaining a record, and effectively managing all the money movement. And of course, basic task is driver onboarding, checking for safety, for their license, etc., etc. These are the key activities that Uber does. Of course, they also engage in community building, building a brand for their riders and dealing with all the businesses that they collaborate with. But these are some of the primary activities. Then coming to key partnerships. Who are their key partners? Very simple. Let's look at the activities. Ride matching. So and driver onboarding. So who's then number one most important partner? Their fleet partner. Now, fleet partner could be the drivers, could be the owners of the cars that are further hiring drivers. All those people are their fleet partners. And then you have the payment gateways, all the different platforms from which payment actually comes in are very important partners for them. And then finally, we come to cost structure. What are the driver payouts? How are we paying the drivers? And when are we paying the drivers? The amount for that is a very large cost that is incurred. It's not just the ride fee that the drivers get, they also get bonuses based on how many rides they do in a day if they cross a certain threshold. So that is also part of the driver payout. I'm assuming that if I'm forgetting if they're, they don't meet a certain threshold of minimum drives, and there's a penalty also. So all that is a part of the cost structure. Then running such a large platform on a global level comes with the cost. So maintenance of the platform is a fair cost that is incurred. And then, of course, how will they ensure that you and me as customers are hearing about it and are, the brand building activities, community building activities, all of that Uber does. It's also part of the cost in each country that they operate in. So marketing is a fair cost. So this is how Uber's business model canvas looks. Very clearly defined, very specific, and very easy to understand. What we'll do is we will do one more example before moving forward. And again, I've chosen a company that, most of us should be familiar with. Tried to take on newer businesses that are interesting for everyone. So the second example that we will repeat this exercise for is Airbnb. We all know what Airbnb is. If you don't know what Airbnb is, take a second, look it up. And let's again give 3 minutes. It's 3:20. At 3:23, we will discuss all these points from the perspective of a second company. Let's take a minute. Let's take 3:21. Sorry. So 3:24, we continue with this conversation. Hello. Okay, I'm hoping that you've all written your points. This break allowed me to take a look at the chat. I missed a message from Vikas Pal about can you explain the last point? Not sure which point this was, but whatever question you have, you can just write it down. This is for Vikas as well as other other people in the session. You can write down your questions. I will try to even keep looking at the chat, but if there's something that I haven't answered, please ask me at the end. Feel free. We have a window, decent sized window for Q&A. To Mahesh Kumar Mahapatra, who has asked or who has said that Zomato has laid off people. Yes, that, or rather Eternal, the updated name. Yeah, I mean, laying off 500, 600 employees due to non-performance. I haven't really read the news about this, so I will also have to read. And I'm not sure what the question was, but thank you for sharing this information. Okay, coming back to Airbnb. What is Airbnb's business model? Customer segments. So who do you think their primary customer is? One second. If you ask me, their customer is, of course, a person who is looking to, looking to a traveler who's looking for an interesting, different, not your most basic accommodation when traveling. Anyone can find a hotel or a guest house, but maybe some people, sorry, maybe some people have, okay, there are chat. Yeah, tourists and travelers, business meetings, travelers, right? Yeah, of course. But then a traveler can go to a hotel. What is the difference? What is the value proposition? Oh, sorry, no. What is the different customer segment that Airbnb is trying to target? These are travelers who are looking for unique hotels or rather unique accommodations. People who are not interested in the basic cookie cutter hotel room or guest house. These are people who are looking for a unique experience. But the answer is twofold, right? Airbnb's only customer is not just the person who is trying to look for accommodation. It is also a person who owns a property and wants to earn income from this. Yeah, exactly. Like, so they feel like someone's written, they feel like they own the place to feel more immersive, a home-like environment, kind of. Yes, they have properties that make you feel like you're at home. And then they have different properties which feel like nothing like home. Like they could be extremely luxurious, extremely offbeat, extremely adventurous. So if you're a traveler looking for a very different experience, Airbnb could actually provide that solution. And when someone says home-like environment, maybe the feeling that we're trying to create is the entire place is to you, right? Whereas in a hotel, all except your room, everything is a shared place. In an Airbnb, you may be able to find unique accommodations that are entirely to you. Yes, of course, luxury too, like someone just mentioned. So your customer segments are actually two: the property owner trying to generate, say, passive income, and your your traveler who's looking for a unique accommodation. Then we come to value proposition. What is the unique value proposition that Airbnb gives? Which we have to think, yes, of course, accommodation, but what is the unique proposition here? Maybe one can say that it could be a more personalized accommodation, or that for some people it could even end up being a more affordable accommodation. If you're somebody who's in another city for a long duration and a hotel might be expensive, but an Airbnb might not. So someone said higher value, but yeah, value could mean different things to different people. For some, you may value personalized experience, and I may value affordability. So these are essentially largely the two value proposition Airbnb is. I'm very sorry, I had to put value proposition on top and customer segment on the bottom. So you can just change the order if you're looking at the screen. That in front of customer segment, I've actually accidentally mentioned the value proposition. Okay. What are the channels? How does Airbnb reach their customers? For Uber, we were very clear it was a mobile application. Is that case the same for Airbnb? Yeah, we have a right answer by Roshni. So what they have is a website and an app. And the best part is the integration is absolutely seamless. These two things together allow you to actually, the channel is very, very well defined, beautifully crafted, great user experience, integrates well. It's also a lot harder to do, when a large part of your website is dependent on an external party. For instance, how does a listing get uploaded? A customer puts photos, not a customer, but a property owner puts photos, description, details, and reviews come in from your users, your customers. To ensure that on a platform like that, you have like seamless integration and a well-designed website that is extremely user-friendly, to create that experience, to create categories for customers to find the right property, to simplify it, all of that while maintaining the safety, the integrity of every single property that is on your website is not an easy task. So that is one channel. A lot of you mentioned promotion, digital marketing. These are channels for, channels where you can create a relationship or build a brand. But for actually executing the sale of the product or the service, it's the app and the website. That's where Airbnb actually sells. Like, where does a customer transact? Where does a customer actually look at listings? That's your website, your app, right? Yes, actually, I've also seen they do a lot of partnerships. Someone mentioned this on an ad. When we discuss partnerships, other key activities, we'll go over that as well. Then we come to customer relationships. What kind of relationships are we building with the customers? Again, similar to Uber, there is personalized feedback, there is rating, there are reviews. There's also one more thing. The customer support is extremely efficient, in my opinion. They help you problem solve, because you could be there could be something that happens when you reach a property. There could be some issue between you and the owner of the property. So Airbnb is very helpful, and it helps you resolve those problems. So their relationship is, of course, feedback based, but also support based. Then the revenue streams. How does Airbnb make money? Very simple, very straightforward. There is a percentage of each booking, which is a fee that goes to Airbnb. Having this clear revenue stream allows them to actually have a very efficient, scalable business model. Then what are the key resources? Service fee. Correct. That is what their business fee is. The booking fee is. Okay, coming back to the key resources, what are their primary resources, right? So number one for any such business is, you can take a guess, the platform, right? Whether it's app, website, it's essentially the platform in which the users are interacting with each other. That's their number one resource. Without that, the business doesn't run. Then all the people that are helping run the business. the talent team is extremely important. These are the people who go to cities and onboard businesses to join Airbnb, to list their properties, to be a part of their network. If you actually if you just for fun, take a look at Airbnb's website, and if you change your location to global, that you're open to looking at properties all over the world, you will come across some of the most unique stays and unique experiences that you would have ever seen. You would come across tree houses, entire islands, palaces that you can rent. Sometimes the prices are also not complete. Some prices are extremely crazy, and then some prices are kind of affordable for an experience of that nature. So all of these unique properties are found by the talent, right? These are the people who are trying to list these unique places to increase the value proposition, to get more eyeballs, get more people on the Airbnb platform. It increases the brand value, increases the cool factor that Airbnb has. Which brings us to the next resource, which is brand reputation. Maintaining a brand reputation takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of money. It takes years and years of brand building that leads to the reputation that they have in the market. And of course, a very large, very important resource is financial resources. Having capital, having having the wherewithal to run such a large, massive organization at a global level. Financial resources are of course required. So now, what are the key activities? If you look at platform, maintaining it, improving it, constantly upgrading it is the number one primary expense. Then in order to actually engage the community, to build a community around it, community of both people who would like to use these services and people who need to have their property listed, because if you don't have enough properties, then even having the right number of users is not going to be helpful. So community building is a very, very important part in a business like this. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but there are a lot of cases like would be in a hotel or any other business of things going wrong in properties like Airbnb, in Airbnb properties. So compliance and legal is a specific expense, considerable expense that Airbnb incurs every year. Compliance and legal is not just for things that have gone wrong at an Airbnb property, like for compensation for that, but also because it's such a tricky model, a lot of governments took time to get, to have laws in place for a business like an Airbnb. And compliance is something that becomes tricky when there's not an exact law in place. So compliance and legal fees are relevant. Compliance and legal are relevant activities that are done by by Airbnb. Yes, someone mentioned customer support, extremely important. We discussed it earlier as well. It's a very, very key activity when you have such a large number of people going to a new place, staying in a place that they've not seen before. Support becomes very important. Then coming to key partnerships. What do you think the partnerships should be? Someone mentioned trust and safety as a key activity. Yes, we would put that under compliance and support. Absolutely, very, very appropriate answers being shared. So number one partner would be the host, the owner of the property. Then local government, very important. There's been caps on how Airbnb works and how much you can charge and how many places can go on Airbnb in countries such as Canada at the moment, because these platforms have led to rise in rent because people have been trying to increase their passive income, and it's led to a fall in the actual amount of property remaining for people to find suitable residences in the city. So local government is a key partner. Then someone mentioned payment gateways, payment channels, payment partners. Yes, very, very important. Again, similar to Uber, people can pay through multiple different channels. Not cash, of course, but all of the channels similar: UPI, credit card, debit card. I think bank transfer is also an option if I'm not wrong. So those are key partnerships. So we have, hosts, local government, and payment processors. Finally, we come to cost structure. What are we paying towards? I think we discussed this briefly. Yes, legal fees. We'll put that as legal compliance, correct? So in case you've all not noticed that a lot of what I'm saying is also now coming from the chat. I'm discussing what's being discussed there as well. So if you don't have the chat window open, that's also okay because I am reading it out loud. Legal fees payment, general administration. What is general administration? So talent, marketing, legal, customer support, maintaining the website. Absolutely correct. Yeah, you've managed to cover almost everything. Perfect. So together we've actually sat and built Airbnb's business model canvas. Now coming back to what we discussed earlier, very important thing to remember is that it's possible that your business model does not look how it looked earlier. When Airbnb started, it started as a company that allowed you to rent your couch to a traveler. I think it was called Couch Surfer, if I'm not wrong. And you could rent your spare couch to someone new in the city for a day or two. And then it became renting a spare room. You can rent your entire house. People decided to turn this into an entire business instead of actually sharing a resource, which is what this was based on, that you have a spare room in your house, you share that. You have a spare couch, you share that. You have a house that you're not living in for a few months, or it's a spare house, you share it. It became a business model. People started buying properties in order to list them as Airbnbs. Tourist locations such as Goa are full of Airbnbs and people investing in property for the purpose of an Airbnb. So the business model completely pivoted. So it is important for a company like, say, Airbnb to constantly keep changing their business model canvas, to keep updating themselves on how things are in their environment, and then change their strategy accordingly. Are we on the same page? Is the business model canvas clear to everybody? Okay. Now, this is actually my favorite part. Common mistakes that people make and what are the best practices. The best practices are actually avoiding the common mistakes. As long as you do that, you would be following the best practices. So what I would like to discuss with you all is the 5 common mistakes that are made by people when building their business model canvas. There's actually a lot more, but these are the 5 top ones I wanted to discuss with you all. Okay, actually, before we start, I would like to ask you if you can think of any. Let's take, it's 3:43. Let's take 2 minutes till 3:45. I would like you to put down a few common mistakes that you think, if you were starting a business, you would like to avoid. Or if someone else was starting a business, you would tell them, when building your business model canvas, please avoid these mistakes. If you can think of any, you can put them in the chat window. You can keep writing. We take 2 more minutes and we will then go over the points you've discussed. Very, very interesting points coming up. Let's take another 1 or 2 minutes and write down. Okay, I think that we can start discussing the common mistakes. Not having a clear-cut management system. Okay, one thing I would like to share about BMC is that this is a canvas. This is something that you draw before you actually start your business. So at this point, from an organization point of view, it's too soon to start building that. This is just a plan, a canvas, a blueprint, a framework for the future. So a management system is a very operational decision, very operational problem that, commenting on that is something that happens much later. So we don't have to worry about that yet. Okay, Rida Khan, very good point. Not planning much or planning too much extra. Yes. If you don't plan at all, you're going to be in a problem. We discussed this in the beginning. You have remembered and mentioned it. Very good. And planning too much would actually force you into a really tight space and you would not be able to come out of it. So absolutely correct. Weak value proposition. Yes. In fact, that is one of the points that I will also be discussing. Weak value proposition is very, very, very big, a very big issue. Because if you don't know what you're actually selling, how do you expect a customer to get it, right? And if a customer doesn't know what they're looking to buy or what you're trying to sell, they will never make that purchase. Nobody parts with hard-earned money when they don't even know what it's going towards. Wrong training, improper management. Yes, but these are problems for later. This is bad management for sure, but it is not a problem of the business model canvas. Yeah, if your number one key resource is training and you don't do that properly, sure. Wrong TG, Yakshita, very good point. Wrong TG, from a customer segment point of view, if you've not identified your customer segment correctly, you're going to be in a problem because it's not, you're right, you're not going to be able to scale your business. Interesting example I'm remembering. The first mini MP3 player was not the Apple iPod. If I remember correctly, it was the Microsoft Zune. Zune, Z-U-N-E, something like that. But nobody remembers it. If you think back, look at technology, the most important MP3 player that comes to anyone's mind was the Apple iPod. So if you're not able, this is not a TG issue as much as it's a business planning issue, because they could not connect the right they could not connect a right software to it, and they did not market it properly. But not having a plan for your business leads to its failure, or early failure leads to someone else taking up space in the market that could have been yours. Improper planning, not making any strategy, not adapting to market changes. Yeah, of course. This 8-hour work culture keeps coming up. I will ask you when we open the Q&A what's your point of view on this is, because interesting that it's coming up. Weak value proposition, agreed, correct. Targeting wrong customer segment, ignoring the customer's needs. Okay. Basically, you're not taking feedback from the customer. When the customer in the customer relationship is constantly getting feedback, it's being ignored, then you could lose customers, agreed. Lack of, okay. Lots of repetitive answers. Inadequate research about the industry. Okay. Ignoring customer feedback, again, discussed. Value proposition, feedback, unstreamlined activities. A lot of points that you're mentioning, guys, are basically operational issues or operational mistakes or things that are happening physically on the ground. What we're looking at now is, if you take a few steps back, you look at the whole business and you don't look at it as day-to-day activities that you're executing. And that is what we're trying to look at. Failing to engage the right stakeholders. Okay, this I agree with. Stakeholders are a very important aspect. Rushing into an opportunity without testing the waters. Again, for later stage. Okay, yeah. Mostly what we're seeing is wrong customer segment, not focusing on the right stakeholders, not maintaining a proper customer relationship, not taking feedback seriously from a customer. Again, very customer focused, mostly points that have come up. Now, the points that I would like you to think about are points from the business's perspective. If you want to start your own business in the future, then you have to think from the other side as well. So now what is the number one common mistake and best practice based on which we can define a best practice? Not validating your assumptions. If today I want to sell a product to, we'll go back to the old face cream example, or actually let's take a new one. We've all seen Sugar Cosmetics, I'm sure. You have seen Shark Tank, you know which business I'm talking about. They noticed that there was space in the market for a brand that was much cheaper. They noticed that there's space in the market for a brand targeting a younger audience, right? Now, currently, also their products are not very expensive, but they noticed that school and college students, for them, maybe we can launch a younger brand, like bright, playful colors. They don't need extremely solution-oriented products. They need fun, simple, colorful products that they can launch for them. Now, their assumption could be that, okay, the price point that these customers are comfortable with is around 300 rupees. But this is now an assumption. It's very important to actually validate this assumption. One of the main benefits, like the key benefits of the business model canvas, is that it helps you identify and challenge your assumptions about the market, who your customers are, and what's your value proposition. But a lot of businesses, a lot of entrepreneurs, what they do is they skip this really important step. And what they do is they rely on their their gut feeling, their emotions, and what they actually hope for to happen. And they don't actually test out their hypothesis with data and with feedback. Now, what happens is then you're essentially building a business based on your assumptions, and you could be completely wrong. And you could be building something that nobody needs, or you could be missing out on an opportunity that actually exists. Now, to avoid this, it's very important to do focus interviews, surveys, experiments, whatever is required for understanding your niche, your business, your industry. You have to do all of this. Build your case, build your canvas, get evidence for or against all your assumptions, and then move forward. So number one, not validating your assumptions. Then number two, identifying a generic target. I'm a business and I want to sell to other businesses. I'm in the B2B space. That's not specific at all. Or saying I am building a product, I'm building ready to eat meals for children. Again, if this is a ready to eat meal for a baby, or not a baby, a ready to eat meal for for a under 1 year old, then it's supposed to be sold and packaged very differently. If this could be now be sold at a chemist also and at a supermarket. But if you're selling a meal to, say, a ready to eat meal for a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, then that is going to be sold packaged very differently. It might even be attractive to children who are in a supermarket with their parent. It might require, say, collaborating with characters that children identify with and engage with. So very important to actually look at what your demographic is. What is your demographic? What is your geographic segmentation, your psychographic segmentation, behavioral? All of these segmentations are very, very important for a business to do. Mistake number 3 has come up already. So then the third mistake is being unclear about what the product or service is all about. A lot of you mentioned this, not having clarity on the value proposition. This is exactly what this point is about, being unclear about your value proposition. What you're trying to figure out is, what is your core intervention? A lot of people take this for granted. They say, we know our product, we know our service, we're going to market. But are you sure you know this? Instead of taking this step for granted, a team, like a business team, should carefully address the following questions. What are we offering? Is it a product? Is it a service? Is it a combination of the two, right? And also, in what ways does it provide value to our customers, to our beneficiaries? What kind of value add is it for them? Define it, clearly write it down. What kind of pains does it alleviate for them? What kind of gains does it generate? And how does it do it? Because the thing is, if you are not clear on what the answers to all of these questions is, then, and if your team does not understand it, your team running the business, then it's very, very obvious that the segment that you're trying to target, they will also not get it. And then if they're not going to get it, will they actually become your customers? Will they spend money on you? Probably not. If you take an example of Urban Clap, right? Urban Clap could say, what do? We provide services at home. But is that their actual value proposition? If you really had to define it, sure, you get someone to carry out certain tasks at home that could be, that you don't know how to do, or that you would have to find a phone number for and coordinate and maybe able to get, maybe not able to get a quality service for. But what is the actual proposition? It's a service, yes, for sure. The kind of pain it alleviates is quick solution, guaranteed service, safety, because you know that the person coming in has been checked from before. Standardization. Every time you call someone, you get a similar service. Convenience. what you're basically trying to do is you're giving a very convenient solution to a problem that was very very annoying and irritating to deal with. So now that if you know that these are the pain points in a customer's life that you're trying to alleviate, then you can actually sell to your customer in a much better way. Then you know, oh, this is a person I can target all the people who move from a new city. I can target all the people who don't have time to wait for 1 hour for someone to come and they need someone to come at a specific time. I can target working professionals. I can target uh, parents or families with young children who don't have a lot of time. So knowing the answer to all these questions allows you to give and have a very, very clear value proposition. Mistake number 4, listing irrelevant channels. Now, oh, sorry. So right now what we discussed, the mistake number 3 is basically a mix of what the product is, what the service is, and what the core intervention is. So these two are the value proposition points. Then mistake number 4 is listing irrelevant channels. Now, this is something that didn't come up when you were looking at the, when all of you were actually discussing in the chat window what the mistakes could be. Fairly obvious, because this is a very, very, very underestimated and mistreated mistake that is made while constructing the BMC. Channels are extremely important to communicate with, to sell, engage, and deliver a product or a service to your audience. These channels are the actual enablers of the entire overall marketing strategy. If you don't have your channel, your entire business has vanished into thin air. There is really nothing to sell, buy, deliver without an actual channel. For if tomorrow Amazon.com or Amazon.in is down for even 1 hour, they will lose out on so much business that it would really hurt them. Instagram goes down, or WhatsApp, Meta, if it goes down for even 20 minutes, it is extremely uncomfortable for everybody. People on Twitter, Reddit, everywhere start immediately talking about Meta's down, is your WhatsApp down? Why? Because the channel is extremely important. Now, a lot of businesses don't actually dedicate too much time into filling out the channel section. As a consequence, what happens is you end up like giving a long list of trivial, irrelevant touch points. And what you should do instead is always think in a human-centric way. Think about only those direct or indirect channels that your target audience, your target customer actually, truly really loves, prefers, or constantly uses. Why do we say constantly uses? You know, there was a time where a lot of businesses would launch an app. Every business would have an app. You want to buy one toothbrush, would you do it on an app? No, you will buy it on Amazon. Or you would buy it on Big Basket or Blinkit or Zepto. You're not going to download an Oral-B app to buy a toothbrush. So it's very important. You should know, where are your customers actually engaging with you? Where are they buying from you? What channels do they already use? And these are the ones that really matter for your go-to-market strategy, for your business model. So that's where you really focus. And the last mistake is something that we've been discussing throughout. And it's come up again, not iterating or innovating your business model, to treat it as something that is static. It's a final document ki ek baar bana liya to ab chalta hi rahega. No, it's dynamic, it's ever evolving. You could stick to your original model, of course, and resist making any changes or improvements or add new information, insights, or feedback, but you could even end up settling for, say, an incrementally changed business model, and you could miss out on potential to create disruptive, massive, transformative, or something completely different value proposition. But if you ignore the ever-changing needs that exist in the market, exist in the environment, you could lose relevance, you could lose customers. Again, we discussed Nokia, we discussed BlackBerry, all these businesses that lost so much of their customers because they did not keep up with times. So that's why it's really important to treat your BMC as a living document. It's a basis for continuous improvement, constant change, innovation. Keep adding new tools, learning about more tools related to it, about different business model patterns that may exist, different kinds of canvases, different kind of business models that, from an operational point of view, from a revenue point of view that exist, in order to actually explore what the possibilities that exist, to generate new ideas and to constantly challenge your assumptions. Which brings us to my final slide. I would like you to quickly look at the key takeaways with me. What does a BMC actually do? It helps visualize and refine business ideas. It's a flexible tool for startups and enterprises. So we say startups because beginning, and enterprises because even though we've been in the business, it's still an important tool. And what we established a few times today is that continuous iteration is the key to success. If you'd like to connect with me after the session, my LinkedIn profile is mentioned here. And I would like to now open up this platform for any questions that you may have.
Yeah, I would encourage my students to kindly come up with some questions if you have. And we have read your questions in the chat window. However, if you have some questions, please feel free.
While we all think of questions for me, I'm going to look at the other points that were added in the common mistakes section. Lack of knowledge about the segment and product. Yes, very important to do your research, whether it's geography as mentioned or other aspects of your customer segment. Peer comparison, price comparison. Okay, comparing with the competition. Again, your price is something that comes up later when your product is ready, but your value proposition is something that comes up much sooner. Crystal clear about why you're coming into business, what is the problem you're trying to solve, very, very important. Vikas has said sometimes some entrepreneurs solve a problem which is actually not a problem. Some problems are not problems and some problems are problems, but you did not know it was a problem. Henry Ford once said that if I had asked the people what they want, they would have said a faster horse and a car would not be on the road, because people did not know what cars are and because cars didn't exist. So sometimes they may solve problems that don't exist, but some of them might actually be good problems to solve. Okay. A/B testing. Again, once the product is ready, that's when we do A/B testing. And again, A/B testing, I agree, is also something that you keep doing over time. It never stops. Companies 10, 20 years into business continue to do A/B testing. Proper search about needs of the people. Yes, research for customer segment and is important. Not bringing in much vagueness, creating duplicity, purpose is already. Yeah, not having a clear value proposition is something that is being repeated. Very, very interesting points mentioned here. Quite pleased to see the interaction, even though it's not verbal, it's quite nice to see it in the chat window. Any other questions that you may have? We can open up the mic or you can type it here. However, Abhilasha ma'am might suggest.
Students, if you have any questions, please feel free. I think all the questions that they had probably, yeah, there is a question, ma'am. Ma'am, there's a question for you.
Yes. Would like. It's okay. Studying BMC seems an easy concept to grasp. If you break some, I will take this as a compliment, because that means that, we managed to in this session break it down and go over it point by point. and go over it in detail. It may seem easy, honestly, but it's not as straightforward as it may look. For instance, right now, these businesses that we discussed, you have a very clear idea about, because they did a great job in ensuring that you as a customer know all these points about them because they were clear on them. Now, if there's a business where a business that you may not have so much information about, you may not be able to write these points because the business itself does not know who its customer is, what its value proposition is. So while it may seem like it's pretty straightforward, it's not that straightforward when it comes to actual execution. And the depth that you can take when you're going into the details of a business model canvas is unparalleled, is actually a lot. I had prepared some backup slides. Wait, I'll show you. This, for instance, is a very detailed BMC that I had prepared while making a case study for a company. So, there is a lot of detail that actually goes into it. What we discussed today was, well, on the face of it, what BMC actually is. So to answer your question, when doing a BMC for a startup, or when you start your business, then how do you do it? This is your step-by-step guide. When it says start with customer segmentation, define who you serve. This means you do full research on all the kinds of segments that could exist and exactly which one you are aiming at. When we say identify the value proposition, you have to go into details of what your value proposition actually is. Then the channel, all of these activities, step by step, you have to do. And building the canvas is the easy part. Actually executing and running a business, that's where the real challenge lies, right?
Saman, there is another question. Akshita Paul is asking how to ensure consistency in best practices for BMC.
Consistency. Not sure. I don't think consistency is what we're looking for.
Probably the question is, when we plan something and we try to execute something, probably how to, keep a balance between the two, and what all, as you rightly mentioned, that making a plan and executing are two completely different things. So probably the question revolves around that. So I think you have already answered. So with this, we've come to the end, and I would request all my students and all the participants to kindly switch on their cameras.
Ma'am, we are not able to switch on cameras.
Akash, could you please help us with that, please? Well, meanwhile, this camera thing is, Akash is fixing the camera. I'm so proud of all my students. I mean, definitely, Dr. Lamba has shared such valuable insights with us. But how my students also engage, I'm like so proud of you guys. So thank you so much, Dr. Lamba, for sharing such valuable insights today. I mean, from demystifying the business model canvas to illustrating the real world application across various enterprises. I'm sure this session has been totally enlightening and empowering for my students. Now, I would also like to call upon Dr. Sumit Sani, the President of the Institution's Innovation Council, to deliver the vote of thanks and express our collective gratitude. Dr. Sumit?
Thank you, Dr. Abhilasha. Our esteemed speaker of the day, Dr. Harchitwan Kaur Lamba, our principal sir, Professor Ajay Jaiswal, Center of Internal Quality Assurance Head and Joint Director, Professor Prajesh Roy, faculty members, para-teaching staff, students, and the member of our organizing team. A very good afternoon to one and all. As we draw the curtains on this incredibly insightful webinar, Mastering the Business Model Canvas, Crafting Winning Strategies for Startups and Enterprises, it is my privilege to extend a heartfelt vote of thanks to everyone who have made this event a resounding success. First and foremost, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to our expert guest, Dr. Harchitwan Kaur Lamba. Your expertise, real world examples like a Google, how they came up from being a non-profitable to the profitable, how Nokia and BlackBerry, etc. identified the problem, pivoted and repivoted and came out with the innovative solutions. And actionable insights have not only demystified the business model canvas, but also equipped us with tools to turn ideas into a scalable ventures. The way you broke down complex strategies into digestible frameworks was truly inspiring. Your step-by-step guiding to building the business model canvas and the activities associated with would have definitely been enjoyed by our participants in their first-hand experience towards their entrepreneurial journey. Your interaction with the students make them think what they learned would definitely left an long-lasting impression on them. Your diverse perspectives from startup challenges to enterprise scalability add immense value to practicality to today's sessions. The common mistakes which provides an insight to our students that what not to do rather than what to do. To our participating students, faculty members, and para-teaching staff, your enthusiasm and thoughtful questions made this webinar interactive and impactful. Your passion for learning is what drives events like these. Thank you. We are deeply grateful to our School of Open Learning Leadership, especially our Director Ma'am, Professor Payal Mago, for her unwavering support in making this webinar possible. Your vision to empower our students with cutting-edge tools like the Business Model Canvas reflects our organization's commitment to fostering innovation and excellence. Thank you for providing this platform to share knowledge and drive transformative change. A special thanks to our esteemed and supportive principal, sir, Professor Ajay Jaiswal, whose tireless efforts behind the scenes turned this vision into reality. Your guidance at every stage was instrumental in curating today's impactful discussions. We extend our sincere gratitude to Professor Prajesh Roy, Director SICA, for your unwavering commitment to uphold being the highest standards of excellence in our initiatives. Your meticulous attention to quality assurance has been pivotal in shaping today's event, ensuring it aligns with our institution's missions or delivering impactful and benchmark learning experiences. Thank you for your guidance and fostering a culture of continuous improvement that elevates every endeavor we undertake. Behind every seamless event is a dedicated team. A big shout out to our facilitator for this webinar, Dr. Abhilasha, for seamless conduction of the event throughout. I would also like to thank Mr. Upender Singh for ideation and execution of this program. Our program support, Mr. Akash Bhardwaj, for their flawless execution and managing the things in a very short notice. Thank you to you too. From promotions to platform management, your hard work ensures a glitch-free experience. Last but not the least, a big round of applause to our whole team of Institutions Innovation Council, who discussed extensively about the title to finalizing out and worked tirelessly in organizing and successful culmination of this event. Apologies, friends, for not mentioning your individual names due to paucity of the time. Final words. As we conclude, let's carry forward today's key takeaways. The power of the business model canvas to pivot and innovate. The importance of customer-centric strategies in a competitive landscape. Courage to test, iterate, and scale our ventures. May today's knowledge spark new ideas, collaboration, and ventures. Let's continue this conversation beyond today through networks, mentorship, and action. Once again, thank you all for your time, wisdom, and energy. Stay curious, stay innovative, and let's build businesses that matters. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sani.
Thank you,
Hope you
Dr.
all have
Sumit.
filled the feedback forms, and please open your cameras so that we could have a group photograph. Mr. Akash? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lamba. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
Thank
It
you.
was really a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all the faculty members.
Thank you,